Welcome back to the Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard, Managing Director and founder of The Sales Doctor. This episode is targeted at sales leaders. So calling all the sales leaders out there, this is more of an episode where I invite you to grab a pen and paper, and as I'm going through the different elements of what we'll cover today, I would strongly suggest that you make some notes about what you can do after this episode to start to deliver value through your role in a different way to the customers that you serve. When we think about the people that we serve as sales leaders, it starts out pretty obvious. We think it is anyway. So we'll start with thinking, well, it's the customers, but I do that through my team. And you'd be right. Of course you do. And if you're a great sales leader, you're probably already doing what I call the three big rocks in your role. And that is you're conducting regular sales team meetings, you're conducting pipeline meetings as a subset of that, but also if you've got account managers who are just focused on growth from existing accounts in their portfolios, you're still having a team meeting with them as well. You're then also having one-on-one sessions with individuals in your team, not only to go through their pipeline or their portfolios, but to really coach them and seek opportunities for building those relationships on a one-on-one perspective. And you're also doing in-field coaching, which is seeing them in action. To me, in-field coaching is one of those areas that I equate to a sports coach never seeing a player play a match. It sounds so obvious, doesn't it? But that's what a lot of sales leaders do. They lead through dashboards, they have training sessions, they might have the meetings, they might even do the one-on-ones, they might even be really good coaches. But I would argue that unless you're really going out there and seeing how that plays out in a customer scenario or with a prospect, then you're kind of missing those opportunities to really target your coaching more effectively. So let's just say you're doing those three things really well. Sometimes we can think that that's where our role begins and ends, but it doesn't, because the reality is we've got a number of different customer groups that we also need to deliver value to. So I'm going to talk you through those different customer groups now. You could call them stakeholders if you wanted to, but I like the word customer because for me it suggests that we're delivering service to those, whereas stakeholder just kind of means that these are people that I engage with rather than necessarily working to deliver measurable value to. So the first customer is your company. Sounds pretty obvious in some ways, but I don't think that sales leaders really see the company as a key customer of theirs. So how will the company, which might be the board, it might be just the entity of the company, really look at my role and equate the type of value that I'm delivering to it through how I do my role. So not just the sales results, but also they might be looking at things like future growth, pipeline value, pipeline behaviours, sales behaviours around that, how we're creating better customer experiences, how we're measuring that. The truth is we don't know and we need to find out. So when I'm going through each of these, and the first one I started with was company, I want you to think about how you can find out what those measures of value will be and why they really matter, what the priorities are and what the top two priorities are and what the top two challenges are that you might be able to help them fix through your role. So I've got company. Next one is the directors. Now I've talked about the board, but I'm talking here too. So if you're a small business or working in a small business and you're a sales leader working in that small business, you've got very obvious directors that you're probably reporting directly into. They'll usually be the founders of that business. But if that business has, been around for quite a while, it might be another employee, but they'll have some skin in the game. And so we need to make sure that we're delivering value to them. Now, sometimes it's not just about the sales results for those people. It might be about being proactive about how you're helping your team or how you're directing your team to think about the resolution of issues, whether that might be customers at risk or accounts at risk. It might be if customers have changed their spending patterns and what you're doing about it. There might be feedback that you've received from certain customers that might come across their desk at some point, and they need to know that you're onto it and that how you're onto it. So what you're doing to work with your team members in order to address some of those issues, for example. But again, when was the last time that you sat down with those directors or with the executive team and really asked those questions? And what are the questions that you want to ask? We talked about some of those questions with company, but it might even be something as simple as, okay, if we're sitting down here in 12 months' time, how are we both going to know that I've delivered value to you? What are those success measures going to look like? What are some of the progress markers that we'll know that we're on track to delivering that successful year? And if it's not on track, if we're not making progress, what should we do about it together? So you're creating internal partnerships at that level as well. Sometimes we don't look to the left and look to the right. Who are the other leaders that are part of the business that might not necessarily be immediately obvious that are also our customers, but actually they are, because they help us to deliver better value not only to our team but also to the end customer and to the other customers in the business, so the directors and the company itself. So if I'm a sales leader, when was the last time I sat down with the head of finance or with the head of commercial or with operations or with customer service or with marketing? Now, those ones I probably have sat down with because they're kind of adjacent to sales. But what about warehouse, manufacturing, distribution, tech, HR? There are so many different areas in the business, and that will be as nuanced as your business and the business structure that you work within. But again, sitting down together beyond just the normal meetings that you have and understanding how you can deliver value to them. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, that's all very fine, but what about them delivering value back to me? Maybe you can start to model excellence by doing a concept that I call going there first. By you doing that first and by demonstrating how you're delivering value to them, you might inspire them. I'd probably say you will inspire them to do the same. They'll probably be curious about why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and the difference that it's making. Once they start to see that difference, they'll be hooked as well. And that can really create a cultural revolution within the business that I'm calling the sales revolution. So other leaders, so we've talked about company, directors, other leaders, your team, it's an obvious one. But again, we don't necessarily understand how we can be of service to those people. So we understand maybe how they like to be managed, how they like to be coached, how they like to be led. We might understand what is going to bring out their best performance. But what else can we do if we're treating them like customers to deliver value to them? What would they like to learn this year? What's your role within that? What impact do they want from you in order for them to say, yeah, I've had a great year. It's been a fantastic year. I've loved every minute of working here this year. I've been able to achieve this, this, and this. Again, we need to ask those questions and we need to have those conversations. So as we're going through, I want you to think about the types of questions that you'll ask each of these customers and when you're probably going to have these conversations. The start of the year is a great time to be having these conversations. It doesn't matter when though. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, I don't know if I can, we've got this big project on, I'm not going to get a chance, it doesn't matter. As long as you start somewhere and at some time, that's what matters. Then you've got the team overall and each team member, and then you've got the top 20% of your customers. Now, this is really where you're going to need to dig into your team to help them to understand what matters to that top 20%. So the team members that look after that top 20%, you can probably gain a lot of insight through them and be thinking then about the role that you can play in helping them to deliver value to the top 20% of your customers. But also think about things like, how can I be driving more opportunity into the pipeline or helping or bringing to my team? Sometimes sales leaders forget that they can do that. And that's a great learning opportunity for their team members, and it's great for the business as well. Or it might be that sometimes that customer base really needs a different voice or needs a little bit more gravitas to be added to a situation in order to resolve an issue or in order to deliver extra value or extra level of certainty or weight to a situation that's valuable to them. They know that they're being taken seriously and that someone senior is coming into those conversations where you think that that's going to actually help everyone out. So a little bit of homework. I don't always do that on my episodes, but I think that it's time for sales leaders to sort of just take a moment and reflect on how they're going about their practice and how they can improve. My suggestion is 2025 could be the most productive and impactful year you've ever had as a sales leader if you take a different approach. Let me know how you go too. I'd love to share some of those examples, and I might even invite you onto the podcast as my guest to talk about them. Thanks. Okay, you've been listening to The Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard. And to find out how the Sales Doctor can help your organisation to transform its revenue, growth and profit, please email me at ingrid@thesalesdoctor.com.au. Visit us on our website at www.thesalesdoctor.com.au. I look forward to your company next episode. Bye for now.